Alright folks, welcome back to Heaps of Games. So, today's video I'm taking a look at more Xbox 360 games that need backwards compatibility. Now I've done a video on this previously, maybe about 6-7 months back, maybe a little bit more. But today I'm sharing another 5 games which I believe would greatly benefit from backwards compatibility. It's just at the moment it's such a shame Microsoft look to have ceased the program, but you never know, they might bring it back again. I imagine the last couple of games really that people wanted it is all down to licensing and stuff like that. But you never know, maybe Microsoft might bring this back and hopefully they add these 5 games which I want to cover today. So the first game I'm looking at is John Woo Presents Stranglehold. Now I've covered this game on a previous video on the channel, but wanted to add it in here again as I'm currently in the process of playing through the campaign. Yet again, thanks to the subtle influence of Steady Sphere and his great review of the game. I'll drop some links in the channel description just as I mentioned on that. But anyway, playing through this game again reminds me that not enough of these types of games come out on console anymore, and we just need to see more of them. Just like straight up balls to the wall action. They have straightforward plots, but interesting plots. There's just no bullshit attached to them as well, like microtransactions and stuff like that. And developers and publishers taking risks, just trying to take risks and creating new IPs. It's such a shame we didn't get a sequel to this, and it's an even bigger shame that this hasn't been brought back to backwards compatibility. I think this would benefit hugely from CPU, GPU horsepower at the Series X in particular, and it would smooth out the gameplay somewhat. Because the fact of the matter is, there's a massive amount of destructibility in the game, and I think bringing it to solid 60 FPS would just enhance the gameplay twofold. So really would love to see Stranglehold brought back, and I do believe it's genuinely an unsung gem on the system. Okay, next up is Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 2. Now, the Xbox 360 didn't exactly have all that many strategy games, and this was one of the really good ones. Again, I imagine the reasoning being is licensing that this hasn't been brought over. It's actually a really good looking game, and the issues with the frame rate is visible, and it is noticeable now, especially if you've played the PC version, which I have as well. But it's fully fledged and it's all here, and it has the entirety of the game, pretty much what the PC has. And as I said, the horsepower, GPU, CPU from the Series X, S, and even Xbox One would greatly enhance the performance of the game. The other thing about this game is that when people think of strategy games, they typically think of keyboard and mouse because those controls are king for those types of games. But the controller setup for this is very good, and I believe that some of the games that Microsoft have created, the Halo strategy games being one of them, has actually tried to replicate some of the systems and design methods of control and UI that are used here for Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 2. So, you know, makes total sense to try and bring this one over, and it's a really fun game. So next on my list is a game called Dark Sector. So it's a third-person action game, kind of a small blend of horror in there a little bit, and it's very good game. Quite underrated, but I think its biggest issue was for a lot of people when it came out at the time is its first impression wasn't all that great, because it starts out as a kind of a bog standard third person shooter, but as soon as you get the glaive and you start getting powers in the game actually becomes really fun. So if you can stick with it for the first 30-40 minutes, there is a really great game here to be played, and definitely another one of those ones where, you know, you don't really see anymore. It's a 7 out of 10. I love saying that. It's a 7 out of 10 game and a lot of fun. But it also, as I mentioned, with a lot of these titles that I'm covering, is it has performance issues in part. So again, using the new power of the consoles would greatly benefit here as well, because there's a lot of physics animations going on here as well, and there's a lot of action on the screen. So again, locking down that performance, even doing that double FPS thing they do with Series X, bringing it from 30 FPS to 60 would greatly benefit this game as well. So yeah, another one to watch out for, and a very fun game. Can be picked up reasonably cheap now. So next up is Kane and Lynch Dead Men. A little bit of an ugly duckling. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this game and some people do like this game. I'm kind of in the middle. I really enjoy some of the ideas that took place in this game, and I can actually see some influence other games have taken from this. Some of the systems in it were quite original for its time. Some people say this game was ahead of its time. I think the problem with it was, and sometimes I have issues with it, the controls in general can be a little bit finicky, and the shooting mechanics are kind of a little bit fiddly and bland. But when it's as a package as a whole and you see what they were trying to do with this game, it's actually worth a run through at least once. And that's quite short actually as well. It's only about 4.5 hours, maybe 5 hours long max. But you know, I actually enjoy what I liked about this as well as the gritty narrative, and there's some excellent voice acting in this as well. So it's, as I said, a bit of an ugly duckling. Some people like it, some people don't. I'd call it a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 game. I might not give it a 7 this time around. But what I found about interesting in this one is, from a backwards compatibility point of view, is this isn't included, but they've included the sequel. So I just can't wrap my head around that. You can play Kane and Lynch 2 on Xbox Series X, S and Xbox One, but you can't play the original, which to me makes no sense. So it'd be great just to bring back both of them and have both of them there as within the backwards compatibility library. So yeah, that's my take on Kane and Lynch. It's an interesting game with some interesting systems, and it's made by a dev that I actually really like, which is the Hitman dev. So they did try something new here, and I said not all of it came together, but I like some of the ideas, basically, is my main point. Okay, I just wanted to sneak this one in at the very end of the video, and it's Condemned 2 for Xbox 360. Again, another weird one. They brought back Condemned 1 through backwards compatibility, but not the second game. I don't understand it. Again, on this game itself, I think a lot of complaints were aimed towards it, and I think overly unfair in some ways. This is a really excellent FPS/horror game, and it has some really great melee combat that it brought forward from the first game and enhanced, in my opinion. The campaign is actually quite longer. I think people also complain on a bit of a tacked on multiplayer to it, but to be honest, that was a publisher's thing, and that was a sign of the times where a lot of these games were getting sequels but they needed multiplayer attached to them. I don't believe it was all developer driven. But anyway guys, that's my picks for another 5 games that really should be added to backwards compatibility. If you enjoyed this video and you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and I'll chat to you in the next video. Thanks for watching.